Grinders, Dean 70 out of 4. I am by my lonesome currently. We're going to have somebody come in theoretically 5-10 minutes or so working on a replacement. Some technical issues. These things do happen. Appreciate y'all that hung around in the chat for the last 15 minutes or so. We should not be late, but these things do happen. Hopefully everybody had themselves a lovely Thanksgiving. Threw off my schedule, probably threw everybody else's schedule. It does not feel like a Friday to me, but I'm not sure what day it feels like, but it feels like something different than Friday. We're back. We're talking NBA. It's a big boy slate. It's a massive slate. Feel free to throw some questions in the chat. I can entertain maybe we can kill some time that way. Questions regarding the slate, overarching questions. I'm happy to dive in and break it down game by game as well. Throughout the Minnesota-Charlotte game, that game is tipping off right now, or might have just tipped off that for whatever reason. Not really sure why they're playing 5 o'clock in Charlotte, but that game is not on the main slate. But don't fret. We have plenty of games, a pile of games tonight. Lots of body parts to monitor as well. It feels kind of quiet, injury-wise, considering we have so many games. But also yesterday, nobody played, so nobody's in the back half of a back-to-back. So, we either know or we don't know for a lot of players. If you missed some things, LeBron expected to come back tonight. Bradley Beal is one of those that's questionable. He's got he's got a thigh. Tyler Hero came back, and then he got hurt again. He's got an ankle, so he's questionable. Orlando is expecting Banchero to come back tonight, but Wendell Carter now is questionable with his foot. Denver is kind of a mess potentially. Miami Max Strus is questionable too. Miami is just shuffling up all sorts of body parts throughout the season, and they may be super thin again tonight. Detroit is another team, like theoretically, Detroit and Phoenix. You don't really want to worry about that, but they may be really thin. That's a late game too. Jaden Ivey's got a knee, so he's questionable. We know Kate Cunningham is out for the foreseeable future. Sadiq Bey is out. Killian Hayes also questionable. Hamidou Diallo is questionable. Corey Joseph is questionable. Both of them had the fish. Both of them are questionable. I guess they didn't have the turkey. Not really sure what they had. And in beef stew, Isaiah Stewart has a toe. So, it's not a good matchup, but that may be one of those deals where whoever ends up playing for Detroit, it's possible you can find some value there. 9 o'clock game, we possibly do not know that going into the slate. But just kind of an overarching thought. Who's my favorite Clipper? Stan wants to know. Jeez, that's one of my least favorite teams to talk about. And obviously Paul George and Kawhi are out. I want to say maybe John Wall, but I don't want to really play Marcus Morris. What do our projections say? I think it depends on where you're playing, to be honest, as far as the Clippers. To be fair, I am likely, I don't want to say mostly ignoring, but I'm not really in on the Clippers. Fanduel, we seem to really like our Marcus Morris projection. He's 5'7" over there. We're projecting a little bit over 30 fantasy points. So we're 25% ownership. This, obviously ownership gets refreshed, and this is talking about ownership from over an hour ago. I think that's way too high. There's no way I'm rostering Marcus Morris if he's going to be 25% owned. At least ideally, I don't want to do that. As far as on DK, I don't think we're getting a ton of ownership. Powell. Yeah, Powell's my favorite one over there. The 6-man du jour. Not a great matchup against Denver. Denver plays pretty slow, but I do like Powell at 4.7 on DraftKings. If you're asking questions, feel free if you don't mind. Put for tournaments, put what site on it, that kind of thing helps as well. Oh, did I miss this? Max Strus? Was that just a rule out there for Max Strus for Miami? He's dealing with a shoulder. I guess that news must have just dropped. Yeah, okay. Chuma Okeke's out with a knee too. Well, that's not good because I was hoping to mostly. Oh, Wendell Carter's out. Great. I wanted So, all right, there's only one game at 7 o'clock, and I was hopeful to try to avoid that and just, pass that game by. And Philadelphia on the other side, it's kind of hard to ignore as well because they're, without Harden, they're without Maxey, they're without Embiid, they're 3 big boys. So, but the prices have adjusted where, it's not lock and load city as far as Philadelphia. But, yeah, it's weird because Banchero is coming back tonight from his injury, and you wouldn't think, maybe they do, you wouldn't think they would just say, okay, you've been out for 4 or 5 games, whatever it is. And now, you're our future. Would go out there and play 38 minutes against Philadelphia. And all the rest of the players would be dead because their prices have bumped up in the absence of Banchero. And everybody is either going to have less minutes or less productivity with Banchero back. So the likes of Wagner and Bol and Suggs would not be as appealing. But if Wendell Carter Jr. is out, and he is, and now Okeke's out, another one of their, kind of their 6-man, a guy that might have stepped in the absence of Wendell Carter. I'm curious how many minutes we're going to project for Banchero. And Bull 7-2 on DK. That's really hard to justify, but I think he's got a better price on FanDuel. He is 6'7" on FanDuel. Suggs 6'7". I mean, that's tricky to do too. We'll talk about it, but this slate, like two of the best like value plays on this slate happen to be guards. So I think that's one way to be different. We'll take a peek at the lineup HQ in a second, actually, because I want to run down our favorite value plays dollar for dollar. Curious how their projection team's going to sort out Orlando, but maybe I have to acknowledge them to some degree. Oh, Stan's talking about my favorite players in chats. Rank, Morant, SGA, and Trey. And yeah, I was in the expert survey today, and I was talking about how I like the idea of spending up at guard because I feel like that's going to be a little bit different. One of the reasons why it's going to be a little bit different is because two of the biggest value plays in the slate, Jose Alvarado, 3.8K, especially on DK. And like I can still play him, but just it eliminates guard spots, and you have, point guard, shooting guard, there's G, and there's utility. So theoretically, you can run out 4. But Sexton also is a little bit too cheap on DK as well, 4.6. Alvarado, 3.8. The absence of McCollum. He looks like a really, really strong play. We're projecting, 7.5x as of right now. So Alvarado is going to be hard to get away from. I love the idea of spending up on SGA's a good play for sure. He's been amazing this season. I wrote up Morant because let's pull up the ownership stuff as far as those guys, because I took a look at it a couple hours ago when I was writing, but I imagine we're going to be able to get John Morant at less than 5% this season tonight. Let's go ahead and type it in because I don't think it's going to move that much. We're currently projecting John Morant at 2.7% ownership. He lit up New Orleans last time they played as well. I know Herb's on that side is a pretty solid defender. I believe he got in foul trouble in that game. That was a weird game if you watched that one because that was where both centers, both big men, Steven Adams, who's currently ill tonight, and Valanciunas got in foul trouble, and it was the Larry Nance, Brandon Clark show. That was a fabulous game if you locked in the backups for both centers. And we can see that again tonight. I wouldn't assume foul trouble, just Clark got loose and Nance got loose. But John Morant in the absence of Desmond Bane is so good. Fantasy points per minute, so good as far as usage. I love him, but I also like Trae Young. Trae Young looks awesome as well. Houston gives up the 5th most 3-pointers in the season. They're 3rd worst when it comes to this is just stuff off the dome. I was writing this earlier today. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Houston has nobody that's gonna shut down Trae Young. You go to that Houston roster, and there's no real good lockdown defenders. Not that you can lock down Trae Young in any capacity, but so those are my 3 favorite, and I think SGA's 3rd only because 1 and 2 is really, really good. Yeah, as far as the slate, by the way, I'm going to run some optimals. We'll take a peek and see what we have. Let's see. What was our projections? 3, about an hour or so ago. So, again, this stuff changes, but it's good to know where we're at 5 o'clock. We are currently oh, wow. Squirrel Patrol is going to come in? What? Man, the greatest, DF. Squirrel Patrol has been 97 live finals, give or take. Oh, sweet. Happy that Squirrel Patrol is going to be jumping in here because I don't think I've talked basketball with him basically ever, essentially on the crossover when he's doing crunch time. But isn't he too busy making lineups right now and figuring out his line? Okay, well, it'll be nice to have him on. It's been forever since he's been on one of these full, long talk conversations game by game. So I'll just kind of hold off for a second and let's see, take a peek as far as optimals. That's what we're running. And it's different where you're shopping, obviously. It's run the Fanduel optimals as well. I don't want to play Marcus Morris. I'm kind of looking at even more on FanDuel with 5.7. It's not even this great value. Yeah. All right. Well, stay tuned on that. But yeah, super excited that Scroll Patrol is going to be joining me. Oh, we didn't get the Miami news. We didn't get all the Miami news. I think that was worth noting, or maybe I didn't scroll up. Is that what happened there? Because who were Suggs, Wagner, Bencaro, Bull, and Bamba starting? Huh? How much is Bamba? Jamal Cain is available for Miami. Caleb Martin, questionable. He's ill. That's a big deal because he can play 35 minutes if he does play. Yeah, Miami just has been a mess for several days now. Also, I think Miami is playing Washington every single game this year. This has to be at least the 3rd time they played this season. So, yeah, we've seen this play out several times. And we don't know about Beal just yet. But if Beal doesn't go, maybe Kuzma can get loose once again, although his price is about as high as it's been, I want to say, all season long. Optimal-wise, for whatever reason on DK, I capped it at 62%. There's one player only that's hitting my optimals. That's the aforementioned Jose Alvarado. Kelly Olynyk is just too cheap on both sides, actually. It's weird. Kelly Olynyk chalk on a team that's, what are they, 8-10 point dogs here in Golden State tonight? But he's just a little bit too cheap. Norman Powell's hitting 45%. Anthony Simons, the absence of Lillard. We got Colin Sexton at 35% too. Kind of mentioned him. Surprised to see DeMar DeRozan. And then there's the big men for Houston. We're assuming that Şengün's going to be out. So KJ Martin and Tyree Eason, one of, if not both of them, kind of might get loose tonight. Although Fernando is expected to back tonight. We'll see, because they still have other guys, Garuba, Bruno Fernando. Curious what the Houston lineup's going to roll out with as far as their starters. But for me, the most appealing ones are KJ Martin and Tyree Eason.
Squirrel is in, Dean.
Yeah. What's up, Squirrel? Thank you for talking to myself. I was like, looking at the clock. I'm like, man, I'm going to need some water, and it's just going to be dead air. But, dude, first of all, super excited to have you on. Secondly, I love your podcast with Jam to Win. Have you guys recorded that this week? Probably not, because it's goofy times this week.
No, we literally just recorded. So we literally just recorded. I went downstairs, and then like Devin was like, "Hey, we need somebody like an emergency fill in," and I was actually just getting ready to watch the show. Like I was getting ready to watch this show. So it's like I'm like getting pulled from the crowd or something. Like, we need you on. Just get up there.
You're always welcome to crash, just for the record. Just going forward, just know that if you ever want to crash the party, if you feel like you disagree with something strongly, do appreciate you coming on for real. I know you're on crunch time sometimes as well, but you never really get to talk the long form with me. So it's I want to give pleasantries. We also have 13 games and like an hour to knock it out. And I don't know. My UCF math says, how many minutes is that per game? Let's. I might need a calculator for that one. We got to be efficient. Basically, is the point here. Do you have any overarching thoughts as far as the slate before we kind of dive in? Not sure if you missed it or not. Strus is out. We don't know about Caleb Martin. Beal is still questionable on the other side. I was hoping to throw away to some extent that 7:00 game, but Banchero back for Orlando, but no Wendell Carter, no Akiki. He's been ruled out as well. And obviously, it's a lot of games and it's the NBA, so more stuff's ready to fall. But is there something you got your eye on the most as far as like a news-wise that you think can change the slate?
Nothing. So I'm getting caught up a little bit. Like I was just seeing the Orlando news now. It is something to throw out that first game because it's 13 games. So like there's gonna be 12 games after that, and like every huge slate like this has like game-changing news. Because it's just, there's 26 teams and nobody does a good injury report. So like there's going to be surprises. You got 26 NBA and injury reports. So yeah, it looks like, I guess Caleb Martin is questionable.
Yeah, which is, that's not helpful, but yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting to catch up on the news. Like Miami's got their entire team listed as everybody in that entire game is questionable. I guess, the one injury thing for me, like CJ McCollum was out. Like when I did the expert survey earlier today, really like New Orleans guys. Like the New Orleans guys are popping for me, like particularly Alvarado and Zion Williamson. And the other thing that really caught my eye for the slate was just some of the point totals are really high. We've got like Golden State's got one of the higher implied point totals I've seen so far this season, and Boston's not that far behind them. I think facing Sacramento. And neither of those teams has guys that are really popping strongly in optimal lineups because there's not injury situations for Golden State or Boston. Like that's something like huge implied point totals can mean a guy goes for a big outlier scorer, and these teams both have guys can go for big outlier scores as it is, like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, it's interesting how point totals can lie in that a game can be super, super appealing and the total can be 219. And it can be a little bit less appealing and the total is 240, but it's because the pie of all the players are available. And I think Sacramento, you mentioned that like they're fully healthy. I believe they're fully healthy. They're a fun team to get a piece of, more so the opponent now when they're fully healthy. And Boston also, I think, unless I missed something, I think they're fully healthy as well, right? I think both teams are.
Yeah, it looks like they're two of the rare teams that don't have any injury news. But yeah, you said it when you have these point totals, like in NBA, it's so minutes dependent. So it's so dependent on injuries, like guys that are stepping into roles that they aren't priced for. But then that causes us to overlook teams that can put up a ton of points, right? And I think Boston and Golden State are both implied for like 123 points. If they go over that, if they're scoring 135, 140, like somebody from those teams is landing on the tournament winning lineup. And it's probably going to be a low ownership because they don't have those injury situations that are causing people to to just gravitate towards that lineup in optimal lineups.
Sacramento plays the fifth fastest pace. Sacramento plays is the sixth worst defense. Also, I love Tatum, and I don't think he's hitting optimals at all. And that's, I think, I did the expert survey as well, and I think he was the guy I was most afraid of being less in the field on. Maybe I just play him. It sounds like you want to play him, because why would you not play Jason Tatum versus Sacramento? I know salary is a thing, but yeah, for sure he looks like a strong play. We'll talk about that game soon enough. The only game at 7:00, Squirrel, that is the Philadelphia at Orlando game, 212.5. This is like 212.5. They theoretically shouldn't be that appealing. Philadelphia plays pretty slow. They're 2-point dogs here in Orlando. Nothing's changed as far as Philadelphia's situation, right? It's the same deal. They are still without Embiid and Maxey and Harden. Thibault's dealing with that ankle, not a big deal, but not available. Banchero is off the injury report. Okiki's now been ruled out. Wendell Carter's now been ruled out. I was hoping to mostly ignore, because I also hand-built my stuff too, so like it just gives me an extra half hour. Is there still some meat on the bone as far as these Philadelphia prices? Milton, I think Milton's probably the most appealing on Philly. It's at 6K. I think there's still some room there. Melton being 8-2 is just like, man, imagine waking up Rip Van Winkle style and what? Melton like 3 months ago? Melton's 8.2K? Good Lord. He's more expensive than Tobias Harris. Then there's the center situation, two good centers that are very strong fantasy points per minute. You're never really sure if it's going to be Harrell, if it's going to be Paul Reed. Sometimes they start Tucker at the 5. We'll see if that happens. I don't think it will, but we'll see. Talk about Philadelphia.
Yeah, there were guys that I was really interested in, a week or so ago, but then they, prices changed. So I don't know that Philadelphia is necessarily a place I'm going to go for any kind of high ownership. What I might do with this game is either stack it, like if I'm doing 150 lineups, have a couple of games where I've got, 3 guys, 4 guys from this game. And then, other than that, I'm probably not going to be playing a ton of people from this game. Just trying to run stuff now. I'm more concerned about feeding the Orlando side than the Philadelphia side, just because the Philly guys are really, really priced up. Probably, like Shake Milton, 6,000 is probably the guy I'm most interested in. Looking at the game log, 46 is a lot, but he's probably not going to hit that against Orlando. So I think we're okay fading that, especially the Philadelphia side.
I mean, the minutes obviously are super appealing too. 39, 36, 38, the last 3, just out of pure desperation. They lost Thibault as well too, one of their wings. I think I'm going to play some Milton. I might just, play him and maybe nobody else. I don't play a ton of lineups. Orlando, we got the official lineup. As you'd expect, it's Suggs, Franz Wagner, Banchero, Bull, and Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba jumping back in the starting lineup. Is this price adjusted since he's been kind of sort of popular the last few days, or where is he at? I didn't bother to look for Mo.
That's a good question. He's a guy 4'4",
6'4" on DK, and on FanDuel he's 5'6". So, but center only on FanDuel.
Yeah. So if he hits at 5,600, it's going to depend on the blocks and steals. But he hasn't been putting up crazy games when he's been hitting the starting lineup. 40 points, I guess, is the high. That's pretty good at 5,600, but I don't know his chances of repeating that. And it would probably take a game with a few blocks for him to hit that.
Yeah, it's a good matchup now that Embiid's out. The combination of Harrell and Paul Reed is certainly worth picking on. Our projection team just updated Orlando for what it's worth. I'm curious what they put on the Magic, if anybody kind of pops for them. Just kind of doing a little refresh here on the fly. I guess everything else got refreshed too, but let's see. Is our projection team like anybody in Orlando? We're giving 32 minutes for Banchero, which I think is about right. They're not going to give him 36 right out the gate. That seems fair to say, right?
Yeah. What's Banchero's price?
And Banchero's 8.6 on DK, so that's basically the most expensive he's been all season long. He's 8.6 on FanDuel as well. You'd think theoretically, it's going to be his show, and I guess they wouldn't put him out there unless he was fully healthy. Maybe he does play 34 minutes against a Philadelphia team that's without their best defender.
Yeah, I'm concerned. First game back, it's still something I think I'm comfortable fading, just because he can put up big games. But yeah, I agree. I don't know how likely they are to really push him his first game back.
Is there anything else that's of note here? Anything else we should highlight as far as this Orlando-Philadelphia game, or shall we move on?
I think we can move on.
Okay, let's move on. Portland and New York in the Garden. 218 is the total. Portland's a 3-point dog here. Of course, big deal. Lillard being out. Eubanks is questionable. Not that big a deal. Well, I guess somewhat. Maybe Nurkic gets a few extra minutes if Eubanks doesn't go. As far as the New York side, Reddish is questionable with his groin. If he doesn't go, we might see Grimes jump in the starting lineup again. If he does go, maybe we don't see Grimes at all, which is so weird. Mitch Robb, one of the 19 centers, is questionable with a knee, and Derrick Rose has a toe. He's also questionable. 13 games in the slate. I think this one, on the whole, one of the lesser appealing games, more so on the New York side. It might be a little bit more interesting if Mitch Robb and Rose and Reddish all sit out. Anthony Simons is probably the most interesting piece here. I think it's more so on DK. His Fanduel price 8.3, DK at 7.6. Start with Portland.
So I am getting some Nurkic in my lineups on FanDuel. He's 6,100. So yeah, I can see Nurkic probably about 30 minutes. Put up 36 and 32 his last two games. If a guy can go 6 times his salary, which at 6,100 on FanDuel, I think Nurkic can definitely get there. I am not getting as much of him on DraftKings at 6,800. He's also only getting like the 2 points for blocks on DraftKings. Getting a little bit of Simons on DraftKings at 7,600. And then let's see, not getting any of them on FanDuel. Go check his price.
He's got a better price on DK than he does on FanDuel.
Yeah.
7.6 on DK.
Yeah, and 8,300 on FanDuel. So I do think Nurkic is worth paying attention to on FanDuel. Just at 6,100, that's a $700 price difference. So that's worth paying attention to. Nothing really from the Knicks side. Okay, like Brunson and RJ Barrett and I guess Randall are always in play just because they tend to play big minutes. But yeah, in particular, like RJ Barrett is probably the guy I'm most interested in on the Knicks side, just 6,100 on FanDuel small forward eligible on FanDuel. So that's appealing.
Do you think if Eubanks doesn't go, there's a chance that Nurkic can play like 32, 33 minutes? That's his direct backup. And Portland doesn't really have much in the way of backup bigs besides Eubanks. They got Watford, Butler, who I don't know who's played as John Butler. Is that a person? Do you know John Butler? I'm told that's a person, and he plays center for Portland, but he's played a total of like 11 minutes all season long, it looks like. Just maybe they get an extra. I know they just kind of baby his minutes, Nurkic. Maybe he goes 33, 34 because it's hard to project him for that. But I think if we get Eubanks out, that could be a sneaky rule out, is all I'm saying. Yeah,
I do. I think it could make an impact, and it could lead to some more minutes for Nurkic, and then that's making him more appealing. So, it's injury news worth paying attention to, and probably something that's going to be overlooked on a 13-game slate.
New York, your favorite player, if you had to pick somebody. I know it doesn't sound like you like anybody. There's no, must-haves, or there's no somebody that you're like a core play, obviously, as far as New York. But if you're going to throw one in there into the conversation, who's your favorite Knick tonight?
Probably RJ Barrett. He's at 6,300 on DraftKings, and he's 6,100 on FanDuel. So go with RJ Barrett. Like that's good mid-range price for somebody that's going to generally be playing a lot of minutes. He's always 37, 38, 40 minutes. So he's not a guy that like often jumps off the page because he gets there more with like volume and minutes than being a huge point per minute guy. But yeah, when those in the close games, the minutes tend to be there. So probably RJ Barrett's my favorite from the New York guys. I think he's the most underpriced. Then like Jalen Brunson's like 7,300 on FanDuel. A little bit too expensive for me, but I think anybody's reasonable for tournaments.
They're talking about Grimes in chat. Like the only way I would consider Grimes is if he's starting because Cam Reddish is out, and I also want Rose out. But if those guys play, like forget it. Don't even think about it. And even then, I'm still kind of squeamish on Grimes. I know he's 3.5. I think he's 3.5 on DK. But just note that you can't play him unless you get Reddish officially rolled out. And even then, what is the upside? He's not a great fantasy point per minute player. Is that your thought as well as far as Grimes?
Yeah, definitely. Like he could not not play, right? Like if he's not in the starting lineup. So
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is probably, you don't want to thread that needle on a 13 gamer. You're hoping like for injury or blowout or something. Yeah, cross him off the list. New Orleans, Memphis, 227 is the total here. New Orleans is a 2-point dog. Kind of mentioned it already. The absence of CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy also questionable with his foot. You mentioned Zion also. Zion was incredible last game. Like, he was so efficient too. He never seems to play above 30 minutes. Last game he's like, I'll just do it in 26. What was he? 14 of 18 from the field, or 14 of 16 from the field. Just wreck shop against a Spurs team, one of the worst defenses in the world. As far as Memphis, we don't really know. It's kind of up in the air. You know, Bane's out. Aldama is questionable with an illness. Actually, he's doubtful. John Conchar, he's got a calf, so he's questionable. And Steven Adams, both, I guess Adams and Aldama went to dinner together. They're both either questionable or doubtful as far as illness. Triple J will play some 5, and that could be a lot of fun. And maybe you get some Brandon Clark here. I think Memphis is thin enough where they might have to run Tyus Jones and Ja together. I don't know if you get enough on Tyus Jones in the slate, and it's not like you're getting the floor price. But I love John Morant. And before you jumped on, I was talking about some of the pricey guards and just sort of lineup construction and how Alvarado on the other side of this game and Sexton, two guards that are really, really cheap, are going to be super popular and go the other way, spend up on guys like SGA, spend up on a guy like Trae Young, or spend up on John Morant, who we currently have at less than 3% ownership. I love that for tournaments. Talk to me about Memphis.
So I love this game. I love everything about this game. I actually remember seeing your John Morant thing on the expert survey, like on the back end. But I like Morant. This is the battle of the 2019 draft, right? Like, this is Zion versus John Morant. And I think it could be a close game. I think both guys probably like going against each other. John Morant, he's 10,100 on FanDuel, 10,700 on DraftKings. Like, FanDuel, that actually, you can fit that in pretty easily. And even run it back with Zion. DraftKings, you kind of have to force John Morant in there, but I think it's like a force that I'm okay doing especially for a game stack. And Jose Alvarado is a really interesting play because he's on DraftKings. He's only 3,800, but he's a steals guy. We don't see a ton of guys like get a bunch of steals, right? Yeah. But he's cheaper on DraftKings, where he doesn't score as well. On FanDuel, he's 4,700, but he's getting 3 points per steal. So I love a little game stack on both FanDuel or DraftKings, like John Morant, Jose Alvarado, and Zion Williamson. And then with CJ McCollum out, like I was shocked when I looked at like Zion's stats. He's putting up like over 50 FanDuel and DraftKings points per 36 minutes. With CJ McCollum off the court this season, it's only like a 100-point sample, and he might not get to 36 minutes, but still priced like 8,000 on FanDuel. Like, that's like if he gets like 48, that's all you need. So I love this game as a stack. Probably my favorite game to stack on the slate, and just the narrative of the 2018, number 1 versus number 2 draft picks.
I didn't think of that. I forgot that part of it, but for sure. That's interesting. I don't know how much you watch the games. Have you watched Jose Alvarado play? Because he looks like the guy I would hate to play against, man. He's just so annoying, but he's a guy you love having on your team.
I've met him. I know a guy I met him at the FanDuel basketball final last year. Was in New Orleans, and actually I know a guy that's a big Georgia Tech fan, like big Georgia Tech like booster. And so, like, they're all really proud of him, like what Alvarado's doing in the pros. So I don't think he was drafted, or I don't think he was drafted very highly. So they were kind of surprised that he's like stuck in the league. And right before FanDuel had him at the event in New Orleans, they had a bunch of Pelicans there. Like Valanciunas was there, but like Jose Alvarado was the guy I was kind of excited to meet, just because my friend is such a big Georgia Tech fan. And Alvarado just signed like this big NBA contract. And it wasn't clear that he was a guy, like, he was not a highly drafted lottery guy that was going to be set for life financially. So he really had to earn it in the NBA. But I agree. Like, I love that kind of player that's like, but I agree. You would hate to play against him, where he's like sneaking in the backcourt and runs up and steals the ball. As a guy's just trying to dribble it casually. But I always see these guys dribbling it so casually up the court into the backcourt. Like, somebody needs to do that. So big fan of Alvarado as a player, but I think he's a good DFS play tonight. Yeah,
he busted his ass. He was working on like 10-day contracts, I think, last year, and he played well enough, and they rewarded him. Certainly earned it. And like you said, he gets the most out of whatever talent he has. That's pretty awesome. I just pulled up, I ran a a court IQ. By the way, I kicked CJ McCollum off the court. Zion's usage, you're talking about the 100 minutes, 33.7% as far as the usage, 1.42 Fanduel points per minute, 1.45 DK. Let's see. The usage goes up 5.6% as far as the spike. I didn't kick Murphy off the court, but I feel like that wouldn't make a ton of a difference. But yeah, I like Zion a good bit as well. We did just get news. This is weird because you know how we get news in pieces. Murphy will play. He was questionable. But one of the big men for Memphis, two of them were questionable with illness. I think all the big men just hang out because now Xavier Tillman is questionable with illness. Those three went to dinner together or they're hanging out together, right? So Steven Adams, who else is questionable? Oh, Concher? Is it Concher who's questionable with an illness?
Yeah, I think Concher and
Aldama as well. So now Tillman is questionable with an illness. Triple J historically thrives at the 5. I don't know how great he matches up against Valanciunas, but at some point Larry Nance is going to come in the game as well. And Brandon Clark, we saw this game last time a week or so ago, where Brandon Clark went nuts. Steven Adams had 3 fouls in 3 minutes of the game or something like that, or he had 3 fouls in the first half, and played 3 minutes or so. And Clark played 20 plus minutes coming off the bench, but he was all over the glass in this game. He's somebody to keep your eye on if news breaks his way. I assume that's something that could be interesting if we see Adams out. Adams historically is a tough dude and plays for everything. Who knows how sick he is, but just worth noting. But yeah, be on alert if Adams gets ruled out, if Tillman gets ruled out, if Aldman gets ruled out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the games you're gonna have to be paying a lot of attention to, and this is why people say with NBA late swap, if you're not it's a good Friday night to stay in, do some online shopping for Black Friday. And late swap your NBA lineups, because I do think this could make a difference, and it's a sneaky difference that you might not realize at lock. And we're probably not going to get the firm news and firm starting lineup until after lock.
Was it you? I think I saw. Was it you that tweeted out you have over 3 million DK?
Yeah.
So what can you buy with three? With is there a trip to space? That was once a thing. I thought it was a joke. Wasn't a trip to space once in the shop over at TK? I'm guessing that's not on the table anymore.
Yeah, I didn't see that. And even at 3 million crowns,
that's not enough.
Yeah, little under $6,000. But I've been hoarding these crowns, man, because waiting for this Black Friday. They got some nice watches that are these watches are not available for 50% off usually. They have some merchandise they probably don't intend to have 50% off. I might end up getting a mattress or something. My wife and I could use a new mattress. But even those are they're a couple $1,000s. You don't usually see them for 50% off. I'll probably just focus on.
I had no idea they sell mattresses. I got 600,000 crowns. Not 3 million. And how often do you clear that out of curiosity? Is that just this year accumulation or several years or what?
No, that's just about this year's accumulation. I spent some, and I was talking with somebody on Twitter. They're when you register on DraftKings, it gives you that pop up and say you accidentally use crowns sometimes.
Yes.
I hate that. I hate using the crown. They're worth twice as much today, man. So I've been saving them all year. So take a look in the Dynasty store and see what's available.
All right. If you find something, let Twitter know. Let me know, because I feel like I should be buying something as well. I saw they have a sale. Everybody's got a Black Friday sale out there. Really, RotoGrinders is a Black Friday sale. I think it's still going 25% off or $25 off any package you want at RG. That includes those scores and odds as well. Mitch Robb will play. Cam Reddish and Derrick Rose are out, so the door is now ajar for some Quentin Grimes. If you want to chase that 3.5K, I presume he's going to draw the start. You never really know with New York, but they have Steve Mikhailiuk. I had no idea he was in the Knicks. Has he played a minute all season long? I see him listed in the. Didn't know. I just thought that guy disappeared. So your favorite player on New Orleans is Zion. Do you have a second favorite player? I guess it's Alvarado because of the salary. I saw somebody mention in the chat. Brandon Ingram, will you get some Ingram shares as well?
I will. I pretty much like this game. Like stacking this game, like the individual pieces. Brandon Ingram. I'm getting a lot of him on Fanduel. Could just because I've run more Fanduel lineups, but he's 8,100 on Fanduel, but he is a guy that he can go for 40 some, 50 some. So I like Brandon Ingram as well. Let's see on DraftKings, he is 8,400, so not as appealing on DraftKings, but still playable, particularly if you're doing a game stack. Maybe if I don't know the correlation off the top of my head between Zion and Brandon Ingram. But maybe you're picking one of those guys and pairing them with John Morant and Jose Alvarado to make a game stack.
All right, let's move on. This is a weird game in that it's got a huge total and it's close. And I don't think I love a lot of it. I'm curious to get your thoughts. 233.5 is the total. Brooklyn versus Indiana. Brooklyn is a 3-point favorite in this game. As far as who's in and who's out. Let me just scroll to get to my list. Yeah, Isaiah Jackson's questionable. He's kind of the direct backup to Miles Turner. Nembhard's questionable with his knee, not that big a deal. Brooklyn is fully healthy with the exception of Yuta Watanabe. Seth Curry expected back tonight after his rest. I think Miles Turner is pretty good. I wish the price is a little bit more appealing, but especially if Jackson doesn't sit, that might open the door for an extra minute or two. Maybe he plays 32, 33 as opposed to 31. But yeah, it's this weird game where, and Durant, as big spends go, I can't get excited with Kyrie being back. Kyrie's too overpriced on DK, I suppose. If you want to chase him on FanDuel, by all means. His minutes were cut pretty severely last game. He didn't close the first half for whatever reason. I know Coach made a comment about players not trying or not being hustling are going to get benched. I don't know if that was directed at Kyrie or I'm just throwing some shrapnel his way. But theoretically, there is a game where Kyrie plays 35. Maybe it's tonight. And Simmons, he got his price bumped up as well. Now he's 7-2 on DK. That's just a little bit difficult. 8K on FanDuel for me. So 7-2 on DK is fine. 8K on FanDuel, I don't think I can get there. But long story short is that I don't love this game, even though in theory, I should.
Yeah, it seems like a high point total. We've got some huge point totals tonight, so it actually doesn't even stick out from a point total perspective. You've got Utah and Golden State, and then the Boston and Sacramento game that are both 5-6 points higher than this one, and even in the 233 range, you've got Atlanta and Houston at 232, Chicago, Oklahoma City. So and the guys in this game really are just appropriately priced. So there's nobody from this game that screams out at me. I never like playing Kyrie. I always feel like he's overpriced. And it did Kyrie and Durant, and particularly Kyrie, missed so many games that their price gets elevated because one of them's out, and then the price doesn't really go back down when the other one comes in immediately. So Kyrie can go nuts. He can put up 70. I usually am just okay when Kyrie has his 60-point night. Just say, well, it's not my night. So in a 150 lineup build, I'll have maybe some game stacks of every single game. And if Kyrie goes for a 60, then I'm hoping that lineup hits. But yeah, I'm okay. There's nobody from this game. It's going to be one of my main pieces.
Brooklyn is the worst rebounding team in basketball, so I think Miles Turner's got a decent shot to get this double-double as well. If you're out there shopping in the sports books, how much you hitting the sports book up? You're good to go. And you're in Washington, D.C. or Virginia, I think.
Yeah, and just Maryland just opened up this week. So I drive around. My wife's family is in Maryland, and so we end up in Maryland all the time. Actually, my family's in Maryland now too. So I end up in Maryland sometimes trying to place a sports bet. Oh, that's right. It's not legal in this state. So I'm living in Virginia. But yeah, we'll drive over the border to Maryland. I can't. I was going to place this bet. I was going to use this boost today or whatever. I can't use it in Maryland today. But no more now. It's legal. I think starting this week. So that's good to see. Obviously play way more DFS than I do sports betting, but it's good. It's actually when you're late in the night and if you're winning a tournament or if you're chasing somebody, it's good to place hedges as well.
Yeah, and I think you can get bonuses, right? You get bonuses in every state when you start up do you get double bonuses? If you open up an account in Virginia, now you jump over to Maryland, can you get a bonus there again? I'm not sure, but check that out. Maybe if you can.
I don't think so. I have to use my parents' address, but now that you mention it, I'm not above anything. So
I was on vacation in Colorado. They didn't ask. I gave them my current address, which is not Colorado, and they just let me play. So I don't know. All right, let's move on. This is another one. Cleveland at Milwaukee. 215.5 is the total in this game, and not a very appealing number. It should be a great game to watch. Potential Eastern Conference Finals. You never know. Wouldn't shock me. Karis LeVert, Kevin Love, both out. Lamar Stevens also is questionable. No, he's doubtful with an illness. We're expecting Holiday to be good to go. He's likely to go. He's probable. Connaughton's questionable. Who cares? Middleton obviously not ready to come back just yet. This is a weird one, and two of the three best defenses look at defensive ranking in all basketball, and that kind of speaks to the total. Of course, two pretty good offenses as well. I don't know what to do with this game, but I think I'm going to have less than the field or whatever the field is. The field mostly is going to neglect it also. Cleveland's kind of pressed a little bit as far as their rotations. Some of their guys, the big men, both Mobley and Allen are interesting. There's some foul trouble risk with Giannis on the court. Also, Milwaukee, for me, is essentially Giannis or bust. It's been like that for a while until somebody's rolled out. They're all rolled out. Then we get interested. But Javon Carter weekend was fun. But, yeah, where are you at as far as the Cavs and the Bucks?
This is probably the game I'm most likely to completely skip. And I agree. I actually think the whole game is Giannis or bust. And Giannis has even been a little bit disappointing lately. And Fanduel's been raising his price, which is even more frustrating. But like sometimes I'll end up with a lot of Giannis on FanDuel just because salary is not as tight. On DraftKings, it's really tough. Like 12,400 is a huge price tag.
Yeah,
and it's not a price tag like he's been paying off recently. I mean, he's a great player, but like even putting up, you see a string of games in the low 40s, like that's 12,800. Like that's just not getting there. 12,400, like that's not getting there. FanDuel, it's a little bit more palatable, but it really how much Giannis I end up playing depends more on how value opens up other places in the slate. And I don't know, like we'll have some value tonight, but unless we maybe get some surprises, I'm probably going to be like maybe 10% Giannis. And even for single entry, I don't think you necessarily need to go there.
On DK, currently nobody is projected above 5%. 12.4K over there. What's the number you're shooting for if you're rostering Giannis on DK? Like he needs at 12.4, and we talked about Ja already. Like we need 70, right? I think you need 70. Basically. Yeah.
I think you can maybe do a little bit less than that. It depends really how the value does. Like if you've got Alvarado at 3,800, we'll talk about some of the other cheaper guys. I don't know that we have the value. Like we need like a handful of like guys less than 4,000 that can absolutely go off to make Giannis like to get your lineup there with a Giannis like 60-point game. We've got like Terrence Mann, like Terry Easton, I don't know, like on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably not gonna be playing a ton of Giannis. And like would you rather play like Giannis or play Jokic and get an extra $1,000 in your lineup? Probably Jokic.
Probably, yeah. Although like Jokic is much more fun when like he's without Murray and just kind of does his own thing. We've seen that the last couple of games, right? But now that's not necessarily going to be the case tonight. Let's see. We got news. Somebody in chat. I didn't see this unless I missed it. Eubanks being out according to Andre in chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
That just hit.
Again, that's one that just kind of sneak past, and I'm not saying that Nurkic is going to play 40 minutes, but he might get an extra minute or two because look at the rest of the bigs in that team. There's not a lot there necessarily. But I guess Winslow can play 5, right? Especially, he's something we didn't really talk about. It's hard to talk about Justice Winslow on a 13-game slate, but I think he's kind of a lineup filler. Did you have a thought as far as Winslow? Is he hitting any of your lineups or?
Yeah, he's only 4,400 on FanDuel. And he does, get the 3 points for blocks and steals. So that probably helped Winslow out a little bit. And he's small forward eligible as well on FanDuel. So I actually do with Eubanks out. Like that's actually a play you can get to. 4,100 on DraftKings.
Usable.
Yeah, like that's actually like pretty reasonable. So like when I recalculate everything with Eubanks being out, I wouldn't be surprised to be getting some Nurkic, especially on FanDuel, and then some Winslow on both sites. So Winslow's definitely in play as a salary saver.
We touched on this game earlier. 238.5 is the total. Boston's an 8-point favorite versus the Kings. The tricky part again, like there's nobody hurt on either team. Robert Williams, that doesn't count. He doesn't play the entire season. Kings are fully healthy. Boston is fully healthy. They're going to run pretty big rotations, but doesn't mean Tatum can't drop a 70 on the Sacramento Kings either. I know you mentioned it before, but just feel free for those that just joined. Give me a minute or so as far as your thoughts on Kings Boston.
So this game's got a really high point total, and Boston in particular has a really high implied point total. So I really like the idea of playing the Boston guys as your spend up, right? Either Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Like we were saying about like Giannis, would you rather have Giannis or Jaylen Brown with one of the higher implied point totals of the night for his team at 8,500, and you get $4,000? It's like an extra player. Like,
mm-hmm.
So I like Jaylen Brown a lot. It seems like more like the matchup with Sacramento seems like more of a Jaylen Brown matchup. Might just be because I see it as being a little bit more up and down the court with De'Aaron Fox. So like Jaylen Brown, but I think you can play Brown or Tatum as your spend up in a tournament lineup with this point total.
Just checking the ownership in this game. I don't think it's terribly high. The fringe guys like Horford and it's hard to get the Horford on a 13 gamers, and when is Al Horford ever going to break the slate? He's going to be the guy like, oh man, if I only would have played Al Horford, I would have been awesome tonight.
Probably not on a 13 game slate.
Yeah. Ownership wise on DK, the only one getting, Horford's getting 7%, Brown's getting 8%, Tatum getting 4%. Like, I think you're supposed to be over 4% if you're running a bunch of lineups. You know better than me. It sounds like you're going to get more than 8 as far as Brown and probably more than 4 on Tatum. I'm hearing you right?
I think so. Like Sacramento, just for reference, gives up the 5th most points in the league, and the 3rd least rebounds. So I see it as more of like a Jaylen Brown night. But I mean, these are both good players, so either one of them can hit. But I'm probably going to lean a little bit more towards Jaylen Brown. I'm
not really sure what we can say about this game. My Miami Heat versus your Washington Wizards.
Yeah. Every night.
They play. It's like the Generals playing the Globetrotters. They play every single. It's the same opponent all the time. Is this the 3rd time this year they're playing? The 4th time? I feel like it's happened so many times. But the Heat. We don't know about Jimmy Butler. Well, we do. Butler's not playing. Hero's got an ankle, so he's questionable. Gabe Vincent is questionable with his knee. We do know Strus and Robinson are out, and Caleb Martin is questionable with his illness. Dedmon's got a foot, so he's questionable. So right now we're seeing 10 bodies for Miami. But amongst those 10, one is named Udonis Haslem, one is Caleb Martin, who's questionable, and one is Gabe Vincent, who's questionable. Of course, the prices have adjusted. Lowry, old man Lowry playing 45 minutes. I'm sure this is not going to burn him later on in the season at all. Where are you at as far as this game? And, of course, the Washington side, who knows as well, because Beal is questionable. Hachimura is questionable. Moore is questionable. So, we're kind of in a holding pattern as far as this game.
Yeah, it's a tough game. It is 3rd time in the last week Miami and Washington have faced each other. So I guess you see that with interdivisional sometimes. But yeah, this is a game right now. There's nothing from this game that I'm building into my lineups. But we've got like 8 more, I think 9 questionable players. So if every single guy ends up out, it's a big deal. Like if Beal is out, Hachimura is out, Monte Morris is out, then suddenly you're looking at Goodwin. I particularly like Denny Avdia in those kinds of situations. He actually did me pretty well last time I think these two teams played, which was not that long ago. But he tends to play a little bit like point forward type when Washington's point guards are out. Only 4,400 on FanDuel. And he's put up like 42 and 31 points in his last 2 games. So that's like 8x salary. But you probably need like Beal and Monte Morris both out for that to become a thing. But it's a reason why you're staying in tonight if you're putting in a bunch of lineups, because you got to see how his injury news shakes out. Yeah, Avdia is 4,600 on DraftKings, so I think he's in play on both sites. But you just need that injury news.
You finally got a good game out of Barton, who's been a disaster all season long. Finally got one last time, and he's 3-3. So, I think if injury news breaks his way, Barton's got to be in the pool as like a pretty big punt there on DK. How do you feel about Will?
Yeah, he's not done well so far this season.
Bad.
Right, but if like you said, like if Beal and Morris are both out, then you have to be considering it. 29 minutes last game with both those guys out. Pay attention to the injury news, and Will Barton at 3,300 does become a play. Then that is one of those guys like those super value pieces that potentially gets you up to the Giannis. But I don't know. It's tough to stick in those guys that have been such big disappointments so far on the year.
Speaking of that, would you go back to Goodwin if the same situation plays out?
I think so. I'd probably be more inclined to play Goodwin than Barton, but it might just be a thing of expectations. Goodwin's 4,000 on DraftKings, and I feel like he was really priced up on FanDuel. Yeah, 4,600 on FanDuel. Goodwin's at least gotten there a few times this year, even in like more limited minutes. So I don't know. If Morris and Beal are both out, God, on a salary basis, you probably have to be leaning towards Barton on DraftKings. And probably like Goodwin's more palatable, I think, at 4,000. And like 4,600 is a lot on FanDuel for Goodwin.
Terrence Ross was just ruled out for Orlando. I don't know how much that matters, but they are pretty thin on some plays tonight. I'm just curious. Yeah.
Actually, let me just throw in Will Barton's 4,700 on FanDuel and like 3,300 on DraftKings. That's a huge price discrepancy to pay attention to if the injury news does break. Because like there's no way, I don't want to say there's no way, but like Barton's not really that much of a consideration on FanDuel. But if at 3,300 on DraftKings, you probably have to be considering him pretty strongly. Donnie
in chat says, "How do you play Goodwin with Alvarado right there?" Well, yeah. You're better suited to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'd play Alvarado over Goodwin. And it's not even a consideration unless Morrison and Beal are both out. Probably Achimura too. I guess Johnny Davis is questionable as well for what it's worth, and he's somebody that could take a handful of minutes as their first round.
He was a lottery pick, right?
Yeah.
Oof. Is he not good, or just he's really? I don't follow the draft. I don't really follow college basketball. Is he going to be good eventually, or he's a project, or it's just not working out?
We'll call him a project.
Fair enough.
He was good at Wisconsin, but it's tough because they're saying now like, oh, he just needs a lot of time. But I think he was one of the older players drafted in the lottery. So
I'm realizing now I skipped a couple of games as far as our order, so I apologize if I threw you off. Let's jump back. Atlanta and Houston, 232 is the total in that game. Houston is an 8-point dog here versus Atlanta. Şengün is the big one here as far as Şengün, not officially ruled out, but I believe he is doubtful. Also, Bruno Fernando is questionable with his knee. We saw him get some run earlier in the season as far as their bigs. Eric Gordon also ruled out. Jayshawn Tate's been out for a while. Atlanta, I saw Clint Capella has got what would they say, dental issues, or he's got teeth. I love Clint Capella if he plays in this game. I think he's an amazing play here against Houston. Houston gives up top 3 stocks, or no, the number 1 in stocks combined, like steals and blocks. It's I think number 1 as far as blocks specifically. It's a great block matchup. If Capella doesn't go, Okongwu could be an awesome value play here. Collins probably plays some 5, and he's been terrible this season. But I imagine he would thrive at the 5 in the absence of Capella, or at least be better than what his asking price is. There's a kind of an if-then there, but Capella really can move some things. And, of course, Trae Young and Murray are both really good too. Your thoughts as far as Atlanta? Feel free to jump over to Houston as well.
So, yeah, Trae Young definitely in play. This is one of those games that's got the 230-plus point totals. And with Atlanta as a pretty big favorite, 8-point favorite, then Trae Young is definitely in play. The Capella news is, again, that's news like you're staying in for tonight if you're doing a bunch of lineups. Because Okongwu, if we knew that Capella was definitely out, like Okongwu would be one of the plays we're talking about as like the chalk. And he might not be that way because it's not just Capella, like Bruno Fernando. Sorry, different teams. But yeah, Okongwu, if Capella is out, then Okongwu is definitely in play. Probably gives a little bit of a boost to Collins. Trae Young is in play either way. On the Houston side, with Bruno Fernando out and Şengün Bruno Fernando is questionable. Şengün's doubtful. Then Barry Eason is like one of the value plays of the night. Had a huge game last game. So yeah, you gotta be paying attention to this injury news because this is going to be something that shapes the slate to some extent.
The way I understand it, I feel like I heard somebody that Fernando is going to play one game either tonight or tomorrow, and he probably plays tonight and sits tomorrow, and maybe they get Şengün back tomorrow. But we'll see. Stay tuned. And we also saw Fernando start earlier in the year, and we didn't want him to start. Remember, we wanted Şengün to start, and like they started Fernando in his absence. Somebody else was out, so I can't remember what it was. But there's a chance that Fernando starts, and I know our projections don't currently have that. We have Kevin Porter Jr. He's going to start. Green, Martin, Eason, and Jabari Smith. It's possible like Eason doesn't start. He's one of their future pieces. He looks really good. I know he crushed in Summer League. A lot of the basketball guys think he's a great prospect going forward. They still have Garuba, another big that's just not very offensively competent, but he's a big dude. He'll probably get some run as well. But I don't know who it's going to be, but I feel like amongst Eason and Martin, one of those guys really thrives here. Maybe both do. Do you have a favorite as far as the Houston side? And of course, like Jalen Green is just fine. No Gordon as well. Solidifies their roles maybe an extra minute or two because they're not particularly deep, Houston, that is.
Yeah, so actually I think Terry Eason's actually a guy worth building your roster around, even though we don't have the total injury news, just because it just seems like he's well priced. When a young guy has a monster game, that's the kind of thing that you want to build off of, especially if you're a younger team. So yeah, against Golden State last game, 23 minutes, 19 points, 8 rebounds. Like he's a guy that he's put up a number of good games earlier this month. So at like 4,000 on DraftKings, 4,200 on FanDuel, forward eligible, small forward eligible on FanDuel. That's a guy I'm going to plan to play, and even if he's not in the starting lineup, I have some interest unless we get some kind of news he's not playing. And then Jalen Green as well is a great play. I think 6,900 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DraftKings. Either site, I think you can play both Jalen Green and Terry Eason.
There's so many games. We're behind in pace. We got a late start. We'll do our best before we hand it over to the Crunch Time crew. Of course, Crunch Time takes you all straight up to lock. I believe it's Will and TJ with Roth. Donnie in chat said we didn't really talk about Miami so much. Well, it's just like a holding pattern. They currently have 10 guys. If it's all 10 guys, then they're less interesting, especially at the max prices of Hero at 8K and at 7.8 for Lowry. If they have a little bit more depth, Bam at 8.3 is interesting. I guess that's playable. It's fine. He's 8.8 on FanDuel, a little bit less appealing. But they become more interesting and you probably get this news at 6:30, or at least you'll get an update at 6:30 that might say, stay tuned, there's still game time decisions. But Vincent, Martin, they're both currently questionable. If they get ruled out, then things can get really, really interesting on the Miami side. But the prices have been hiked up a bit. Chicago, OKC, 232.5 is the total. Chicago is a 3-point favorite here. Like you said, big total, expected to be a close game. OKC is the worst rebounding team in basketball. I believe they give up most rebounds per game, if not mistaken. Percentage-wise, it's Brooklyn. So I do like Vukovic in this game. We still have a pretty cheap Zach LaVine. OKC, for me, it's essentially SGA or bust. I guess you can play some Giddey, but I'm not messing with anything else on that Thunder side. What's your thoughts as far as Chicago, OKC?
So, yeah, I do like the Chicago players, like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Vucevic on DraftKings. Tend to be getting like more for Vucevic on DraftKings at 7,500. But, yeah, I think second most points allowed in the NBA, most rebounds allowed in the NBA per game. So I think this is a thing where you can play a couple of the Chicago guys and not necessarily need to run it back with any of the Thunder who are like more appropriately priced. Like I think SGA and Giddey are both like well priced, not well priced. Like they're appropriately priced where you don't need to play them. And then everybody else on the entire roster is like in and out, like starting the second half but not the first, or vice versa. So yeah, I play the Bulls, not so interested in the Thunder.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Lakers at San Antonio. San Antonio, the worst defensive team in basketball, if not the worst. It's Detroit. They're 1-1A, essentially. We're expecting LeBron to be back. Chris Haynes reported that LeBron's going to play tonight. Otherwise, if it was just all Anthony Davis, he's been smashing of late. People love the crush him when he's like going to the locker room. But that game he put up last time was outstanding, and he would annihilate the San Antonio team. He still might annihilate the San Antonio team. Pat Bev is out for pushing the wrong guy. He's for just pushing anybody. I don't know if you saw that situation. San Antonio is without Josh Richardson, McDermott as well. Collins expected to be available. Not that big a deal, but it's a great matchup for the Lakers. But now that LeBron is back and AD is going to probably lose some to LeBron, it's a Lonnie Walker revenge game. I saw somebody in chat say that. But when both LeBron and Davis are available, it's hard to get excited about anybody else in the Lakers. I want to pick on this terrible defense. I'm just not sure if I can, how to. Your thoughts as far as the Lakers?
Yeah, this is probably a game I'm not going to be getting to a whole lot. Like Anthony Davis would be the appealing guy. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the most expensive players on both FanDuel and DraftKings now. And with LeBron back, that probably takes a good bit away from him. I mean, it's scary to look at like the game log and see like 84 points, 64, 70. But like Yeah, I mean, he's priced up to 10,900 now. I get, earlier this month he was like 9,100 on DraftKings. Now he's 10,900, 1,800. Increase is a huge amount. And then to have somebody like LeBron is coming back, and he's going to be a huge usage monster on that Lakers team. This is probably a game I'm just not going to be getting to a whole lot of.
Yeah, I mean, Davis still theoretically can get there. And like you said, the game log for Davis is just, 84 points, DK points last time out, 64, 70, 63. I think those are all games LeBron missed, all worth your 10.9K. The San Antonio side, you want to touch on the Spurs before we move on?
There's not one Spurs player I can think of that I'm playing. They've kind of had guys in and out with injury. There's just nobody that jumps out at me. I'm more interested in playing guys against the Spurs than playing the Spurs themselves. They do allow the most points per game in the league. It's just a unique situation with LeBron coming back and Anthony Davis, priced up, that I'm not even interested in playing any of the people playing the Spurs. But no, nobody that I'm particularly interested in.
Detroit at Phoenix, the 224 is the total. This is a scheduled blowout. Detroit's an 11-point dog. Cunningham's out for the foreseeable future. Ivy is questionable. Bay is out. Hayes is questionable. Joseph is questionable. Diallo is questionable. Theoretically, if something might pop up on the Detroit side, I have nothing to offer right now because I don't know. Well, we're in the holding pattern here. Phoenix, Chris Paul's still out. Shamit's still out. You can play yourself some Booker. Like Detroit's a horrific defensive team. I think Payne has a nice price on FanDuel. I think he got priced down over there. Yeah, 6-7 on FanDuel is pretty good for campaign. I don't know what to do with this game. This is like, what kind of analysis can you give in Detroit? Stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly. It is something to pay attention to because who's playing point guard for Detroit. I feel like Detroit has like 8 point guards that are good or at least playable, and they're all either out or questionable. Killian Hayes, Corey Joseph, Jaden Ivey, Kate Cunningham. We know Kate Cunningham's not playing. But like if one of those guys is playing and the others are all out, Diallo's questionable, then that might be something worth paying attention to. I just don't know how you do it. I don't know how you plan for it.
What if Corey Joseph's the only guy left standing? Do we play Corey Joseph?
I mean, if there's really only one guy who's playing, then you'd have to pay attention to whoever that is, and maybe you're leaving some Corey, or not some Corey, just leaving some Alec Burks space.
Alec Burks.
Yeah. So I would say Burks is the guy I'm interested in if everybody's out. But it is hard. I don't know if I want to be leaving, planning specifically for that. I guess he's 5,300 on FanDuel, point guard, shooting guard. If you land in that salary range, it's probably worth paying Burks, but I don't know who you swap to if everybody's in. 5,200 on DraftKings, 5,300 on FanDuel.
How much is Kelly O? We haven't talked about it yet. He's 5'2", utility spot.
Yeah, you'd have to be putting him in the utility spot. Yeah.
But Michael in chat mentions Kevin Knox, but I apologize. We can't I couldn't answer the questions in chat just because we got to fly through it. The Crunch Time crew will get to it. Feel free if you ask questions, ask them again when Crunch Time comes in. But if enough guys are out for Detroit, Knox he's been playing all right. He's been getting some run, and he's still really, really cheap. And I feel like Knox has got to be a mop-up guy if this game gets ugly. Just, again, 13-game slate. You don't want to play Kevin Knox, but maybe he's usable depending on. Phoenix, it's tricky because they probably should blow out Detroit, but sometimes you get surprised. What do you know with the Suns?
All right, just looking at Kevin Knox, it is surprising. I thought that was maybe a joke, but he's
no.
3,500 on FanDuel, 3,600 on DraftKings. And he's put up some good games. We'll see. If everybody's out on Detroit, maybe Knox and Alec Burks are worth considering. There's certainly guys to swap to later on the night if everyone's declared out for Detroit. On the Phoenix side, there's probably nobody I'm getting to except for Cameron Payne on FanDuel, 6,700. If you land there, I think that's a fine play. Point guard, shooting guard, eligible. I think you can play a little bit of Cameron Payne on FanDuel. Not getting as much of them on DraftKings. That probably means he's got a higher salary at 7,300 on DraftKings. A little bit of a fringe play, but you can play him if you land there.
All right, two more. We'll do this really, really quickly before the crunch time crew comes in. Utah, Golden State. I think it's a pretty appealing game, despite the fact Golden State is fully healthy. Utah is without Mike Conley, Rudy Gay as well. 239 is the total. Golden State, an 8-point favorite here. Some pretty good prices on the Utah guys. You never really know who's going to close there if you land on it correctly. Sexton is popping as one to start and one of our better dollar-for-dollar plays. Olynyk is another good dollar-for-dollar play. Utah gives up the most points in the paint. So one of the stats I was kind of digging today, by a good margin. The next team's like 3 points less. They're going to – I mean, you're not going to believe this, but Kelly Olynyk and Lauri Markkanen, they are not rim protectors. And Vanderbilt's like a little, good defensive player, a little bit undersized. So I like Draymond a little bit. I think this is a possible like 10, 11, 12 Draymond triple-double alert watch kind of game. Well, I like Draymond tonight. He's going to be in a good bit of my lineups. We'll see. But, I'll throw it to you. In the interest of time, I'm just yielding. Utah, Golden State, what do you got?
Yeah, this is actually a big game. It's got, I think, the highest point total on the night. I think Golden State has the highest implied point total of any team on the slate. I agree. I think Draymond Green is very interesting. 5,800 on FanDuel, and he's getting those 3 points like blocks and steals. Like that's a really appealing power forward spot. 5,900 on DraftKings. Probably not as appealing because he just doesn't score as well. But double bonus, maybe even a triple double bonus. Like in a game with quite a huge point total, anything's in play. Yeah, like actually, now that I'm looking at this way the slate unfolds, I do like the idea of you can put in a couple of Utah guys, Draymond Green, and then maybe you're swapping around to some Detroit guys if the injury news does break, and they become like high projected options. But yeah, Colin Sexton really well priced on both sides, so he can be a core piece for you, like 4,600 on DraftKings. 4,700 on FanDuel. That's a little bit too cheap, I guess. I think it's Mike Conley that's out. So, and probably going to see the starting lineup. So yeah, I think you can. This is a game you can definitely stack. You can play a few pieces from this game, and then that gives you some late night pieces to swap around with if the injury news breaks the way where you want to add more guys from different games.
Yeah, if I'm stuck pivoting to Utah Golden State players, I think I'm okay with that. I'm not going to be angry. If like worst case scenario, if things don't crack my way, that's sort of what you're talking about there. Your favorite play on the Golden State side is who?
Probably Draymond. Probably Draymond as like a core piece. But I think you should, if you're doing 150 lineups, I think you should go out of your way to make sure you're getting some Steph Curry in there and some Klay Thompson in there. Just because this game could be like the second to last late night hammer type game.
Pat Connaughton officially out. Holiday remains probable. Şengün officially ruled out as well. Bruno Fernando, available to play. Probably sits tomorrow night. And again, there's a chance he starts, which is kind of annoying. I don't think I'm playing Fernando if he does starts. But as far as I know, he's not like 3K. I think he's somewhere in the 4s.
Yeah. He's 4,100. And I don't think he's played more than 25 minutes this season, but that does make Terry Eason even more interesting.
Denver Clippers, last game, crunch time crew coming in momentarily. 218.5 is the total. Denver, 4-point favorite here. Clippers without not just Paul George, but Kawhi as well. Kennard's also out. We're expecting Jamal Murray to be back from his conditioning issues. Bones Highland likely still out again. Michael Porter Jr. is questionable with his heel. Murray coming back would kill any dreams you have of chasing Bruce Brown, at least in my mind, who had a phenomenal game in overtime. He triple-dubbed. But quickly, your thoughts as far as Denver and the Clippers. And I think the Clippers, they're more interesting FanDuel-wise when you consider the prices. I'm pretty sure of that.
I think it might be the other way around because I think, Terrence Mann's 4,600 on FanDuel, and that's probably not something I'm getting up to, but he's only 3,800 on DraftKings. And I actually do have some interest in Terrence Mann and Norman Powell at 4,700 on DraftKings. Not getting him as much room on FanDuel, where he's 5,800. So that's a big price difference. So it's DraftKings. I think actually on DraftKings there's especially with this like flex spot, there is an argument to be loading up on the later games.
Powell.
Yeah, Powell and Terrence Mann are both really well priced, and then that actually gives you some space again if like you get like big injury news in Detroit, like and all of their point guards are out, then maybe you're swapping like Norman Powell or Terrence Mann and using some of that salary to get like the last man standing in Detroit. Otherwise, like Powell and Mann are both good plays by themselves. Jokic, you can always play, and he's a guy worth spending up on. I'd probably rather have Jokic at 11,400 on DraftKings than Giannis at 1,000 more. Obviously, either one of them can break the slate, but Jokic is probably the guy I'm most interested in on FanDuel or DraftKings, just from the Denver side.
The Miami Heat just signed Drew Smith to a 2-way contract, waiving Orlando Robinson. I'm not sure if that affects the games tonight or if that's them calling him up from the G League or something like that. Maybe it's kind of a tell as far as what the Heat are doing, but
yeah,
wish I had time to dig into that. I don't know much about Drew Smith. Isaiah Jackson is available for Indiana. Nembhard is ruled out for Indiana, and it's a game time for all the guys that had the fish on Memphis, all the big men. Adams, Concher, Aldama, and I believe Tillman is also questionable too. So stuff can certainly open up. All reasons to backload your lineups, I think. But again, it might go the wrong way. But it feels like some great stuff could potentially open up. I think the Crunch Time crew is here. Nope, not just yet. But before we turn it over to them, now that you've talked through the slates, and thank you so much. I appreciate you jumping on, making the show much, much better. People wouldn't have to hear me for an hour straight just kind of rambling. But is there any specific thing now that you talked about it, well over, well under, you're going to make sure you game stack this one more than the field? What's kind of coming to your brain right now?
I do think it's worth not going out of your way to backload your lineups, but like if you are choosing between a early player or a night player, like I think you want to play the night players. Like there's some appealing games and some appealing players, especially on DraftKings for the later games. And there is still some injury news up in the air, especially with like the Detroit side of this 9:00 game. We're still not going to have at lock.
Yeah. I don't know when we're going to get that. A lot of times the coaches meet with the media an hour and a half before the game. So maybe we get it at 7:30. I believe there's a ton of games at 8:00, right? You got Philadelphia at 7. 7:30 is New York and Portland. Okay. So there's only 2 games before 8:00. So, and we didn't love Portland, New York, if I remember correctly. I didn't love it. Didn't sound like you loved it. Maybe we can kind of wait then. We'll see.
Yeah.
I hear some noises in the background that tells me the Crunch Time crew is here, and that's Kevin Roth. What's going on, dude? It's Friday. Does it feel like a Friday? Not really. It's kind of
no. Today feels like the worst Monday ever. That was my daughter. You heard noises today. We decided we're going to potty train her. So we did this whole, like today is the day, right? So we did this whole elaborate thing where we physically and metaphorically threw away diapers as a family, and, got stickers and the checklist system. And literally in the middle of it, she just squatted down and pooped on the floor. So, yeah. So that's,
so we're
that's
going to backburner that.
Yeah, that's how my day's going. But other than that, life is good. How are you?
A little stressed now. I got a lot of labs to make, a lot of news we're kind of waiting for, but life could be worse for sure. Hopefully y'all have yourself a good Thanksgiving. But myself and Squirrel, I guess we're going to see ourselves out. We're going to make some lineups. You guys have a monster slate to talk about. Hopefully everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. TJ, hopefully Thursday was nice for you up there in Canada. You enjoyed yourself. But yeah, unless you got anything else, Squirrel, you want to take off and get out of here and yield?
Yeah, got some lineups to build. So.
Yeah, I want to get you at the door. I thank you for jumping in and saving the show. Thanks for watching the first portion of the show, and we're going to go ahead and hand it off to the FanDuel sponsored Crunch Time with you got TJ, you got Will, you got Roth. Roth, take it away.
Appreciate it, Dino. As always, welcome everybody. We're back at it here, day after Thanksgiving, or as TJ calls it, just another day. TJ, do you do anything for Thanksgiving, or you just completely ignore it?
I did a whole lot for Thanksgiving yesterday. I did a couple of FanDuel Friday shows, the Morning Grind, NFL Pre-Walk show, a couple of expert surveys. So yeah, lots of content for me for Thanksgiving. I got to watch football all day. It was a lot of fun, but
not
no
a lot
special
of
food or anything like that.
Right. No turkey, no celebrating. For those who are not aware, TJ, our good friend, one of our neighbor to the north there, Canadian. But you guys do have Canadian Thanksgiving. That's a thing.
Yeah, it's in October. It's the exact same celebration. It's just in October.
Yeah. So all right, you already beat us to the punch. Happy that you could join us. Also joined by the one, the only, the Chief. What up, bud?
Nothing much, man. I'm here for the potty training stories. Those days are over for me, and they're not coming back. So, good luck, my friend. I salute you, and it will get better. Might not be tomorrow, but I definitely understand.
we got an Elmo gif on the potty. It's so good.
I got a potty.
I'm thrown off how we have an Elmo gif. Obviously, just some top tier producing. Dean had 300 people watching with Squirrel, the literal best DFS player in the entire world, and he only had 50 likes. I'm so disappointed in Dean. Dean just never gets it done.
Yeah, we're going to beg for some likes here. Smash that like button for us. The more likes I get, the more successful my daughter will be at potty training. So smash that like button. I need all the positive energy I can get here. Guys, let's talk about the slate a wee bit. It's a big one. I tried to count the games, and it was like 12 or 13, and then there were so many I couldn't properly count them. Bottom line is it's a whole lot. TJ, how are we attacking this slate?
We still have a lot of news and injury situations we're waiting for. So from a cash game standpoint on both FanDuel and DraftKings, I don't think you have to play a single player in the first two games of the slate. I think we just wait until 8 p.m., get the Houston starting lineup, wait on some of this Detroit and other news that Washington, bunch of other news that we're still waiting on. So I think the play is we kind of take our time here. I don't think we need to play anybody in cash in the first two games of the slate. However, there are some pretty solid plays in those games for tournaments.
Okay, very good. Well, if you can, I realize we're waiting on a lot of news, but can you still walk us through kind of a cash build, TJ, on FanDuel?
Yeah, absolutely, I can.
And first, I should add, by the way, FanDuel is our sponsor. If you're not signing up for the single entry series for FanDuel, you're doing it wrong. It's back for NFL. Reserve your entry at the $5, $33, $100 tier. Get in on the action. Weekly and seasonal prizes. Shout out to the winners here. We've got in first right now, it's Ledetsfo. In second is Tef3 Tech. And in third is Puckrat. Puckrat's been like top three the whole time. So hopefully you're getting in on that for the weekly and the seasonal prizes. Sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're in illegal sports betting state, take advantage of their Thanksgiving offer. Bet $5. Get 125. Terms and conditions apply. TJ, walk us through a FanDuel build.
So for cash games today, I think it's weird because we have value to prioritize, but not really a single spend up that it's like, hey, this is the guy you absolutely need to have in your lineup today. So we'll start with Allen, his core plays here. It's Sexton, it's Alvarado. Alvarado is an even better play on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, but on FanDuel, he's still a phenomenal cash game play. I don't know how high his ceiling is at 4,700. Like, yes, he could still smash for sure, but he's a near lock button territory for me guy on DraftKings, where on FanDuel, he's just simply a solid value and a good cash game play today. The biggest trend that you're going to see in this is if you're deciding I caught Squirrel saying this right at the end of the last show, and I agree with it. If you're deciding between two guys, the answer for cash games or probably tournaments is the guy in the later game, just so we can wait and see on a few things here and kind of what we like best. So we got two. I'm going to start with guard. We got at the point guard position, we got Jose Alvarado and that we already have in there, and we're deciding between Trae Young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the next two highest RG values here. And then we also have a guy like Jordan Clarkson, who is a great, safe, high ceiling, high floor cash game guy here. But I think what the play is for us, since we already have so much value, is to play a guy like Trae Young in a phenomenal matchup at the point guard position. And then when we shoot over to the shooting guard position, have also go with a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the shooting guard spot. If you don't want to go with him, you can play somebody like Zach LaVine here, or you can play Jordan Clarkson. But that's kind of where I'm looking in that range. If you want to pay all the way down for somebody like Amir Coffey, I don't think there's anything totally wrong with that. However, I think I'd rather play him at the small forward position. Shooting over to the small forward position, we got Tariq Eason as Terry Eason as the top play here. As long as he starts, I think I would play him in cash games. If he doesn't start, he's more of a tournament only play for me. I still love him in tournaments, but I'm not sure if I'd still roll with him in cash games. Another guy that's in a similar situation, not about starting, but it's Denny Avdia. If we get Bradley Beal out again, all of a sudden a guy like Denny Avdia with some of those Washington injuries we already got news for. We got Monte Morris is already out. Yeah. Rui Hachimura is out, but we're still waiting on Beal. He's a game time decision. And so if he's out, I think you can play Rui in cash games as well. But if not, I think we're looking at Eason, Levine, Martin, Coffey, Winslow. That's kind of the range that I'm looking at there with my priorities being Terry Eason and Zach LaVine. LeBron James remains questionable today. All right, sounds good. At the power forward position, I'm looking at Kelly Olynyk as my number one play here for cash games. Draymond Green is a very safe, good cash game play here as well. I have no issue if you want to go with him. It's because of how big of a slate is. I want to shoot for some guys that I feel like have bigger ceilings than he does. Even in a cash game setting, I think that could be important tonight. So if you land on Draymond as a last piece, I'm good with it. But I'm searching for higher ceiling guys today. I'm looking at the Denny Avdias, the Kelly Olynyks in this range. If you're looking for somebody to spend up for, I think my favorite option would be a Jason Tatum. The thing is, like you can also pay up for somebody like in the mid range, like a Zion Williamson, who nobody's going to be doing, but I love today. It's more of a tournament play. Miles Turner, I think, is a great play. Ben Simmons is relatively safe, but I'm feeling like either paying up or 5K ish and below. So I'm looking at somebody like a Jason Tatum up here, or I'm going all the way down. And I think Bam Adebayo, if you land on that in the 8-8 spot, is fair too. Yep. At center, priority for me is if I'm not playing Olynyk at the power forward position, it's Olynyk there. Bamba is projecting really well. That does scare me. He is a very high upside play, and I think he's fine, but it does scare me for cash games. I think, but if you're deciding between Bamba and Draymond, just know the safer option is Draymond Green and the higher option is Mo Bamba. Make that decision with what you will. However, I will say, just before I pass it over to Will here, one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate, if Steven Adams is in, is going to be Jonas Valanciunas. And if Steven Adams is out, along with Santi Aldama, then at this power forward position here, we got to look at somebody like a Brandon Clark, who's going to end up being one of the top plays on the slate if both of those guys are out.
Okay, very good. Anything else you want to throw in here?
I don't think so. If you land on a Utah guy as the last piece in cash, it's fine. I didn't mention Steph Curry. If you want to go with Steph Curry over Trae Young or because you have some salary, I think that is okay too.
Okay, very good. Chief, let's talk some tournament builds over on FanDuel. What is your mentality? What's your game plan going into this? And are you also just punting those first two games and saying you don't need any of it?
Mostly, now that DeAnthony Melton is 7,900, he's not as appealing. Shake Milton is 6,400, not as appealing. Tobias Harris is 8K, not as appealing. I think Mo Bamba is probably my number one tournament target out of these earlier games. And that's probably everybody's, tournament target. So it won't really be a secret there. I wish I knew whether or not Mitch Rob was going to get 28 to 30 minutes. Like he'd be a good tournament play, but I don't trust Tibbs enough to roll Mitchell Robinson out tonight at 4,400. I'm saying that, but what I'm also saying is, man, at 4,400, that's Mitch Rob could a couple blocks and steals, man, and he's getting 30. So, but I don't want to risk it there. I'm with you guys. Like Justice Winslow at 4,400 is fine. If you need some salary relief, but we're going to get that from other places as well. So all in all, if you look me square in my eyes and said, Chief, I don't want to play anybody in the 7 and 7:30 games in cash or tournaments, I shake your hand and say, hey, sure, no problem at all. We're good. In terms, I think I am slightly higher on John Morant than maybe the field tonight. I just think this is a spot he could put up a big game just out of nowhere. Nobody looking, playing against New Orleans, a team that should be able to keep this thing close. They're at home. I haven't really seen Ja, with an explosion recently, but I mean, he's always a couple shots away from breaking the slate open. And I'm saying that because if you look at the other night, he put up 52 fantasy points. He scored 34 real points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 5 turnovers. I mean, he's a 40-point game away from pretty much hitting 60 regularly. So in this spot against the Pelicans, last time he played the Pelicans, put up 57. He had 36 points. I just think this is a really high upside spot for him. Big slate, so nobody's going to play tonight. So he is a top tournament target for me, and I think that's what I'm going to do instead of covering the value, which is going to pop in lineup HQ. I think I'm just going to cover all the big guys that maybe no one wants to play tonight. I don't think a lot of people want to play Tyrese Halliburton, and I know Ben Simmons is back, and I get it, but this guy's got tremendous upside. Don't have a ton of ownership on him, so he's someone I want to plug in there. I will say out of the, I guess, somewhat expensive guys, I'm probably not playing anyone from Brooklyn just because Durant, Kyrie, Ben, as Ben continues to play better, they're going to eat into each other. Is this a Giannis Antetokounmpo night? I think it is, and I think it is because he's expensive, and I don't think you have to play him. And those are the guys I want to get to on tonight's slate. Another guy that I really like that a lot of people are going to like is Trae Young, but I don't think you need to fade Trae just because he's got roughly over 20% ownership. This is a good spot for him against Houston. And, of course, these cheap Houston guys, people are going to play them. I think that's a great run back. Zach LaVine is somebody I'm going to continue to play daily while the price continues to sit low on both sides. So if I'm on this show, you'll hear me talk about Zach LaVine at 6,900. Yes, he's got other guys, and he's not going to hit 45 points every night, but it is coming as that price continues to decrease. Similar to DeMar DeRozan went on this 40-point stretch. The same thing is coming around the corner for Zach LaVine. Just be patient and wait. Keep plugging him in, and you will reap the rewards. There was one other. Oh yeah, in Washington, as these guys ruled out, I agree with TJ. I really like Denny Avdija, especially Bradley Beal sits, and then that's also going to pull Will Barton into the picture for me as well. Like him a ton. Miami, I know we got some news to wait on. So I kind of want to see there, but if all these guys sit again, I am still going to be playing Kyle Lowry. And then I'm of the mindset that even though LeBron James is back, I think we take one more big shot on Anthony Davis and see if LeBron just concedes to the fact that AD's playing out of his mind right now and he doesn't need to get in his way. At 11-8 against the Spurs, I'm willing to roll it one more time. Because if LeBron plays, who wants to play AD tonight? Raise your hand if you want to play AD. Nobody wants to play AD. Well, of course, me and you, TJ, we got tournament mind. So we're going to play him. And so that's what I'm saying. At 11-8, with the way he's been playing, he's pretty much putting up Jokic, Giannis, Luka type numbers. But his name is Anthony Davis, and we're afraid he's going to get ruled out, and LeBron's back. And I'm thinking LeBron just says, hey, man, you just keep doing it. I need to get back into the game, so forth and so on. A guy that I don't think a lot of people will want to play tonight is Jaden Ivey. I know it's against the Suns, but the usage has been there. He's 6,800. And so these are the type of guys I'm kind of poking and picking with because I don't have to sell you on Colin Sexton and all these other 4K guys. You're going to play them anyway. Just want to point out some sidebar pieces that maybe no one wanted to take a shot on.
Okay, good stuff, man. TJ, anything to add there, or shall we kick it over to DK?
As I switch it over to DK here, there are a couple things that I want to add just based on there is a lot of tournament value that are going to be, because it's a 13-game slate, 1% owned type plays that I do like quite a bit. And so maybe not a one. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I got to reset my projections. I like fiddling around when I'm running more than one lineup, and I'm trying to train myself to get better at DraftKings since I don't have any entry fees restrictions there. And so I'm playing 20 lineups over there today. But on the Anthony Davis thing, I talked about how we don't have like a must spend up guy tonight. If LeBron James was out all day and we knew that, then Anthony Davis would be the must spend up for cash games, and he'd be the highest owned expensive guy tonight. Because we're thinking LeBron is going to play. That's why, as you can see, he's 3% owned on this slate and nobody's getting to him. And so if LeBron happens to be out, that's just one of the best things you can do. But there also is a bunch of other value I'm interested in. Like Stevie and I talked about Devontae Graham on the morning grind. Everybody's playing Alvarado, especially on Fanduel, where Alvarado's up in the mid 4Ks and Devontae Graham is 3.5. He's not projecting very well, but he's going to lead the second unit in usage, and who knows, maybe close if he plays well, play mid 20s minutes, and he could 10x. If we look at Orlando here, they're a team that I'm starting to find more and more interesting. Not just that these guys like what's going on here? Not just that some of these cheap guys like not just like the Mo Bambas and the Bulls and stuff like that, but I think somebody like RJ Hampton is super interesting for tournaments. This game gets ugly, or even if not, with Terrence Ross out and all these other players that they now have out at the guard position as well, on top of the Wendell Carters and the Chuma Okekes. I think he could end up playing a ton of minutes in a low 3Ks smash. And then the best one that Chief mentioned earlier, Will Barton, I think is just, if Beal is out, just one of the top values on the slate, the DraftKings at 3,300. He's mid 4Ks on FanDuel, and I think he's just a solid tournament play there if Beal's out. But on DraftKings, where he's 3,300, he's one of the better plays on the slate. Talking about cash games now, Jose Alvarado is the lock of locks, and unfortunately, as you can see here, because I kind of forgot I'd be on the screen share, you guys can see all my tournament exposures here that I was kind of looking to. So whatever, it is what it is. But I think Jose Alvarado is the most important play today. Colin Sexton is the next guy you're obviously looking into get into your cash games. And then from there, it's where things get a little bit different and a little bit interesting. At the small forward position, the best RG value we have right now is DeMar DeRozan, who I think he's a fine cash game play. Don't necessarily love it. If you land on it, it's fine. But for me personally at this spot, my favorite guy to go with would actually be Jaylen Brown. He's not like, I guess based on projection and ownership, the cash game play is DeMar DeRozan. But if it's me, I would go with Jaylen Brown. I would pay down for Norm Powell, KJ Martin, or Justice Winslow. My favorite of that group probably being in a vacuum Norman Powell, but from a point per dollar standpoint, Justice Winslow. So my favorite is Jaylen Brown. Maybe that's my tournament brain. You can go with DeMar DeRozan if you'd prefer it. But if you have the salary, I think you pay up for Jaylen Brown in this spot. Okay. Power forward position, you can still play DeRozan. You can still play KJ Martin. I think Terry Eason is probably my favorite cheap option I'd want to go with here. Ben Simmons has a great DraftKings salary. He's totally in play, as is Lauri Markkanen. All of these guys are in great spots. If you got to pay up, you're going for DeRozan and Markkanen. If you got to pay down, you're looking at Winslow or Eason. And then if you're in the mid tier, you're looking at Ben Simmons. If you're choosing between Winslow and Eason, I would choose Eason if he starts. If you're choosing between Markkanen and DeRozan, I would choose Markkanen, but the projections say DeMar DeRozan in this spot. Finally, at the center position, Bruno Fernando, if he starts, is going to grade out very well. Kelly Olynyk is in a good spot. Nick Claxton is in a good spot. You can play Ben Simmons here. Like we talked about before, if you find out that this is one of the reasons it's nice to backload, because if you find Anthony Davis is out, then he becomes one of these top plays on the slate here as well. So if you're paying down, you're looking at guys like the Olynyks or Claxton. If I'm choosing between one of them, it's Claxton. In the mid tier, you're looking at Ben Simmons. And then if you're going up top, I don't hate the idea of spending up for Nikola Jokic at the center position today in cash games. And then if all of a sudden you find out that LeBron James is out, you would just simply pivot to Anthony Davis.
Okay, very good. Chief, let's talk DK build tournaments. Anything different there from what you're doing over on the old FanDuel?
Yes, in fact, it's actually going to come from the first game. So on FanDuel, where I'm interested in Mo Bamba from Orlando and not interested in really any Philly players, we're going to flip-flop that on DK, where I'm probably not going to have any interest in Mo Bamba because he's 6,400. But I think I'm going to play Paul Reed at 4,800. I know the minutes aren't there, but the upside's there. And nobody wants to play him today on this big slate. He's only center eligible. It's going to feel really gross. But he's shown that he's going to put up big numbers with Embiid out with this particular lineup in limited minutes. So I'm willing to roll him out. Montrezl Harrell still $100 more, and in my opinion, is not the better play here. So just wanted to point that out. We're going to flip-flop those two. I do also have more interest in Evans on DK, where he's under 8K. So this is a spot where I play him. Of course, Justice
was that
Winslow
Evans?
as well.
Was it Evans that you said there? I didn't quite hear you.
Anthony Simons, sorry.
Simons. Okay, you cut out a little bit.
Yeah, Simons. Sorry about that. And Justice Winslow at 4,100. I don't have to sell anyone on Jose Alvarado. I don't, you guys know I don't mind going lock button. Like, he's probably the lock button at 3,800 on DK. I don't see any reason why you would need to fade him. I'm still on the same train with Ja, like a guy that I don't think is going to get a ton of ownership. But if this game stays close, I'm telling you, the upside will be there. I like a lot more Ben Simmons on DK, where he's 7,200 versus the larger 8 tag. If he's hitting 42 fantasy points, like, I'm feeling really good about that at 7,200. Same thing with Tyrese Halliburton. I'm still going to be still be on a few sprinkles of Giannis. Still going to be on some Trae Young. The discount between Trae and DeJounte is starting to get really large. So DeJounte is another one of those guys I'm just going to start playing, because one of these games
Clint Capella just got ruled out. Sorry to interrupt you, Chief. Clint Capella just got ruled out. So I think that means that as long as Okongwu is starting, he is probably going to be our cash game center here on DraftKings, where he's 3,700. And
honestly, even if he doesn't start, he's going to get 25 minutes. I'm willing to roll him.
If he starts, I think I agree. If he starts, he's borderline lock button. If he doesn't start, he's cash viable and a great tournament play. And I think John Collins is now in the discussion as well in cash games, where he, I believe, is 5,700. So John Collins is a potential cash game play, very solid tournament play. And I think Onyeka Okongwu is now a core play in cash games.
Yeah, and I've been talking about John Collins anyway. Like, as long as he's in that mid 5K range, you probably just need to play him every day, just because he's too deep for his upside. It's not going to be there every game to game, but 1 out of 5 games, he's going for 35-ish. And so, as an example, and so you probably want to just play him anyway. Same thing, KJ Martin's going to be in play in the game, so I don't have to tell you them. Same thing with Levine. He's 7,100 on DK, 6,900 on FanDuel. I'm going to continue to play Levine. I don't have to sell you on SGA. We all know what he's got going on. In this Boston game, this game, I know I didn't talk about it much, but it's just I'm kind of staying away, even though it's a really high total. Like, this is the game that Jason Tatum could probably go slap off. But I'm willing to fade him for some of these other big pieces tonight. Still going to be on Denny. I don't hate Kristaps Porzingis on both sides. I forgot to mention him. I had a note about that and missed it, so sorry about that. And then once again, the Lakers, where we're getting AD at 10-9 on DK. I'm just rolling the dice on AD tonight, man. Like, I know I've mentioned that a couple times, but I think that's the I can hammer the field spot. Like, just go ahead and get 25 to 30% AD right now. And man, what if LeBron goes in and re-injures himself in the first 8 minutes? Like, you're still going to get the same AD upside, and LeBron is ruled in. The ownership is very low. I don't want LeBron to be injured. I'm just talking about scenarios. AD is absolutely my tournament play. While the upside is continuing to be there.
Okay, very good. Guys, anything either of you want to throw in here? We've got about 6 minutes until lock. Plenty of questions coming in.
Nope, I don't think so. Let's get those QQs rolling.
Let's do it. Scrolling up just a wee bit here. I'll start off with Jay Sams in the RG Discord. Fanduel single entry chief. Is it okay to play Jabari and Eason together? By the way, I've also got Trey in this lineup.
I think I just play one or the other personally.
Okay. K. Pearson, single entry GPP's chief. I know Grimes' production is broken, but he actually is a good play. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. His projection on RG is broken, but is he actually a good play or no?
I wouldn't worry about any type of Grimes tonight. Like, just let that go.
Okay. All right. This just in. Caleb Martin says he is playing tonight. He had been listed as doubtful earlier in the day. Does that change anything for either of you?
No. I mean, he's priced to where I don't think you have to play him anyway.
LeBron is in. LeBron is available to play tonight.
I don't think you play Caleb. He's 5,900 on DK anyway. So, yeah. So listen, LeBron being in actually helps me like AD more for what it's worth. Like, that's great news.
Sure. I mean, I like what you said, that there's certainly a path where even if he comes back and he's healthy, he's either limited in minutes or he's just limited in his aggressiveness and just defers to the guy who's been dropping 30 and 20 every night. I think that's definitely an interesting take. We got the LeBron smiling gif going on. Good stuff. All right, let's see some more QQs here. With the Okongwu news, is this going to change the ownership on Bamba on FanDuel?
It might.
Yes.
It might, but Okongwu's still the better player. I mean, he's so much cheaper. Like, you have to play him.
Yeah. I just took Okongwu out of. I just took Bamba out of the. I'm playing 3 lineups on FanDuel. I just took Bamba out of the one that I had because I was doing kind of Tyler Harrow says he'll play Friday. I was planning on doing like a contrarian early stack with maybe play some Banchero, play some Bamba, play some the Anthony Melton, and now with just the Okongwu news kind of just reminded me that you don't need to be doing that type of thing on this slate.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Steve O says, hey, it's always hard to predict when it's a Clay night, but he's 5,800. Can we roll the dice on Clay in a DK GPP?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Great. Is coffee okay on FanDuel as a punt?
Yeah, 3,500.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
But yeah, cash as well. I think as a punt he's fine, but if he doesn't start, that's where you're getting worried, and because that's the last game of the last game of the day. Like he started last game, so we're projecting him to start again. If he doesn't start, that's where you're worried about maybe getting him out of your lineup and trying to pivot to a Batum or Covington if one of them ends up being the starter. But it's kind of sketchy, so it's not the best. But as a last piece, it's fine.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash TJ 3v3 Trey Morris Bamba or Sex Machine Tatum Nurk. Is that I suppose that's got to be Sexton. Sex Machine?
It is, but like I don't really like either of those. Like you need Sexton in Cash, but Nurkic can't be your center in Cash.
Okay, all right. We got to retool it a little bit. Favorite Rockets value tonight, Chief? You got a favorite player on the Rockets that's a cheapie?
It's probably going to be Martin for me, just because everybody wants to play Tari Eason, to be honest with you.
Okay, interesting. DKGPP, Chief, coming right back at you here. Okongwu Ayton or J-Val Olynyk? We'll start there.
I don't like Ayton. I think I'd almost rather play Okongwu Olynyk and then bump somebody else up. I think because Olynyk's 5,300 and Ayton is 75. I think I just go Okongwu Olynyk and then improve in another spot.
Okay, very good. And then kind of a second piece to the same question. If all of these Detroit guards are out, would you play Burks over Sexton?
I don't mind that call at all. Sexton's probably better because, God, Burton gets hurt so much. Burks gets hurt so much.
We just don't know the minutes on Burks. That's what's scary.
And that's what I was about to say. You took the words right out of my mouth. Like, Sexton has the minutes. If you've got the cojones to stomach not knowing Burks' minutes and you can roll him out, go for it. It's a tournament call.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Wiggy, okay, and FanDuel Cash. TJ, any interest there?
If as a last piece, yeah, I think that's fine.
All right. FanDuel Cash, you want Jay Collins or D Green?
Draymond or John Collins. I'd go with John Collins now, to be honest.
Okay, very good. Jumping over to the YouTube chat here. And DKGPP from Mr. Papa Giorgio. Simons or Lowry?
I like. Oh, sorry, that was GPP.
Chief, Simons or Lowry for you?
I'm on roll with Lowry, man. Lowry's been doing it for me. Give me old man Lowry once again.
Okay, very good. Anthony says, what are your thoughts on Steph tonight? Jazz have been getting torched by guards. Follow-up question from Josh, Steph or Jokic? So I want both of your answers on that. TJ, you can start us off.
In a vacuum, straight up, Steph or Jokic, it's Jokic, but I do love Steph today in tournaments.
Okay, Chief?
Jokic.
Okay, any interest in Steph, Chief?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody wants to play him tonight. Give him to me all day.
Okay, very good. FanDuel single entry. We just hit the lock. We'll take a couple of these questions here. This is a 3v3 FanDuel single entry, Chief. Jokic, Levine, and Turner, or AD, Zion, and Powell?
Oh, man. Sometimes I just hate the choices, guys, and that's not a knock on you. I think I'd take AD, Zion, Powell because of my affection for AD tonight in tournaments. But the first one is better overall in terms of quality. I think you get away from Zion and find somebody else, and then you can bump up Powell.
Okay. Knicks, by the way, starting Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, Robinson.
Like you could do AD Olynyk and then bump up Powell. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you could rework that.
Sure. I get you. Let's see. FanDuel GPP, is Collins a viable pivot off of Draymond?
Yes.
Chief? Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds good. Steve O says it's too late, but DKGPP, Bamba or J-Val, which would you have done?
Without knowing right now, I would do Mo Bamba, but the reason I would have probably kept J-Val is because of the other things that could open up. And so if Steven Adams is in, the answer for me would be Jonas Valanciunas. If Steven Adams is out, Brandon Clark's going to play a lot of 5. They're going to be going small. Jonas is going to be ran off the court. And so I don't like him anymore. So if Steven Adams is in, Jonas Valanciunas is one of my favorite GPP plays on the slate. But if Steven Adams is out, I want no part of JV.
Okay, good answer. Jay Sam says, is there any way Okongwu doesn't start, or is it just we assume he's in?
They could do something
it's
weird.
Possible
like
they can start Collins.
Yeah, and they maybe play AJ Griffin. But I think Okongwu starts for what it's worth. Like, he's been soaking up a lot of minutes off the bench anyway. Like, he's been getting I think around 20 minutes a game anyway already. I think he starts. I think he plays 20. Yeah, he's playing 20 minutes. I gotta think he plays 28 minutes today.
Okay.
I think it'll depend too on, like, I could see Houston and Atlanta playing a little bit of a game of chicken in terms of who releases their starting lineup first. And if Houston does it first and Garuba starts at the 5, then Okongwu will start. But if Houston does it first and Martin starts at the 5, then maybe they roll with John Collins at the 5 as kind of that counter. So could go either way. But either way, Okongwu is going to get good enough minutes to be a good play.
Very good. Okay, guys, with that, we are going to bounce on out of here. So for TJ, for Chief, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.